Hello friends, and welcome to episode 1 of the Bonfire. This is a series where I want to go through Dark Souls 3 lore. I've been obsessed with this game for a long time, I'd say over 5 years, so I figured why keep all this autism to myself when I could spread it on the internet. This is not only the first video of this series, but it's also the first video on this channel. So the polish of this video will likely leave much to be desired. If you have any suggestions of how I could improve, feel free to leave them in the comments. And without further ado, let's get into the story of Iudex Gundyr, the Forsaken Champion. So Iudex is the first boss that we meet when we start the game, and he essentially fills the role of judge to those who would try to link the flame. And just as an aside, Iudex is literally Latin for judge, which I thought was interesting. So Gundyr acts as the scabbard for the coiled sword, a sword that is, quote, only bequeathed to chosen ash, as judged by the Iudex, unquote. So in order to be judged as worthy by Iudex and receive the coiled sword that we need to light the bonfire in Firelink, we must first best the mighty warrior in battle. But this raises the question, if Gundyr is so powerful as to judge the worthiness of those that would try to link the flame, why couldn't he himself just do the linking? And this is where the tragedy of Gundyr's story really begins. As before he served as scabbard, he, much like us, did set out to link the flame. But as the description of champion Gundyr's soul tells us, quote, once a champion came late to the festivities and was greeted by a shrine without fire and a bell that would not toll. So this is about where the widely agreed upon story of Gundyr ends, and we're kind of left to fend for ourselves when it comes to figuring out why exactly Gundyr arrived late. One of the first things that I think is important to point out when discussing Gundyr is that he, unlike us, was not an unkindled one. Gundyr was a champion. And while it's not entirely clear what exactly a champion is, we do know that it's fundamentally different than an unkindled one. The description for the ember reads, quote, no unkindled can ever truly claim the embers that burn within a champion's bosom, unquote. By consuming an ember or defeating a powerful enemy, we the unkindled can briefly gain the strength of a champion, but the strength is fleeting and is lost upon death. So this makes it even more puzzling as to how Gundyr, who was a true champion, could fail in linking the fire. But I don't believe that Gundyr failed on account of his own strength. I believe that he was fated to fail in his endeavor, and likely was even betrayed. The description of Gundyr's halberd reads, quote, this old cast-iron halberd has the power to break poise and is said to never crumble, seeming to suggest that Gundyr was fated to eternal service from the beginning, unquote. Another clue can be found in the description of the Estus ring, which we find at the bottom of the decrepit bell tower looted from the body of a lifeless firekeeper. The description reads, this ring was entrusted to a certain firekeeper, but in the end she never met her champion, and the ensuing tragic farce became a favorite tale of the masses, unquote. So between the fact that Gundyr was given a halberd that would last him an eternity, and that his tale is recounted as a tragic farce, it seems likely that Gundyr's unfortunate end was premeditated. But by who? I think that the answer to this can be found by more closely inspecting Gundyr's armor. Gundyr wears a set of metal armor that is adorned by golden filigree. A deep blue cloth drapes over his waist, and his helm features a crown atop his head. Now this armor design might look a little familiar to you, and that would be because this design is very similar to armor that is worn by those involved with the Lothrics. There are certain key features in Gundyr's armor set that we also see in Lorraine's armor set, we see them in the Dancer's set, we see them in Vort's set, and even the winged knights that guard Gertrude's corpse wear a very similar armor with the same dark blue cloth and golden detailing. But, as I'm sure you're saying, the Lothrics would never be cruel. They wouldn't betray anyone, right? Well, no, you're probably not saying that, because if you know anything about this game, you know that the Lothrics are pieces of shit. The descriptions for the cinders of Prince Lothric reads, quote, the Lothric bloodline was obsessed with creating a worthy heir, and when this proved impossible, resorted to unspeakable means. Suffice it to say, the path to linking the fire is a cursed one indeed. So now for my theory. I think that the Lothrics convinced Gundyr that he would be the one to link the flame. They gave him a set of Lothric armor, they gave him an unbreakable halberd, and they sent him on his way. They told him that he would be their champion and that they would be forever indebted to him. When we meet Champion Gundyr in the game, we meet him when he's just found out that his Firekeeper is dead and that his bonfire is nothing but ash. And in the timeline of the lore that's removed from the chronology of the events of the game, us fighting Champion Gundyr likely takes place before Gundyr becomes Iudex and becomes the scabbard to the coiled sword. Now, I'm not going to claim that I've completely figured out exactly how the Lothrics are involved here and to what extent, but I do definitely believe that they had a hand in his arriving late, and I also think that they might have had a hand in him encountering us. Maybe the Lothrics planned for us to meet at that point Champion Gundyr after he had succumbed to madness upon finding his Firekeeper dead and his bonfire ash, or maybe we just happened to be in the right place at the right time and unknowingly ended up doing the Lothric's dirty work for them by killing Gundyr. The description for the prisoner's chain reads, quote, "Portion of a steel chain once used to restrain Gundyr. A prisoner is one who has staked everything on a belief, a proclivity most apparent in the greatest of champions," unquote. The Lothrics needed someone to judge those that would try to link the fire, and Gundyr, who was a champion with just such a proclivity, was pretty much the perfect candidate. Champion Gundyr, weakened from his encounter with us, was unable to fight back when the Lothrics found him and pierced him with the coiled sword. And thus, the champion was reduced to the judge, and the Lothrics had gained a new eternal servant. Okay, so that was the lore of Gundyr, as well as my own theory in there. I don't know if it made sense. I like it. I think it's cool. I like the idea of the betrayal and it being really tragic. I find that really compelling, and also fuck the Lothrics. But that might be a stupid theory. I don't know, and truthfully, I don't really care. Please feel free to let me know in the comments, all 2 of you watching this. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you thought that theory was dog shit, or if you thought it was super cool and awesome. And if you have your own theory that you want to share, and I'll read it, and I'll tell you if I think it's dog shit or not. I don't really know exactly what I want this channel to be. I know I want it to be game-centered, game lore-centered. That's what I'm most autistic about. But I've got a couple games and just kind of things that I'm considering talking about. I think it'd be fun to talk about some of the lore of the Witcher games / books. Not the Netflix show, because that's ass. We will not be talking about that. Warhammer 40k is another big one, but I don't know if I feel confident tackling that. But as for this series, which I've dubbed the Bonfire. Do you get it? It's pretty clever. As of now, I'm thinking I want to run it talking about characters as you meet them through the game, like in the same order that you encounter them in the game. So first Gundyr, next Fort. But I don't know, I might get bored, and there are some that I just don't want to talk about. Like, who the hell wants to hear about the Curse-Rotted Greatwood? That thing's disgusting and it's fucking lame. So I might skip over some. I might just kind of jump around. I might take a break and not even talk about Dark Souls and talk about something else. I don't know. Let me know if you have any ideas, or just tell me to kill myself in the comments. I don't care. Have fun with it, and have a good day.